What a decisive win for the Denver Nuggets. Although I will say, even being up 14 points going into the fourth quarter, it felt like everyone was incredibly tight, including on Denver's side, to the point where they played Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray until the wheels fell off. Rob, as we mentioned, you're there. Where do you want to start with this one? Did it feel as dominating as it did probably from afar for us?
It felt pretty convincing. I think we have to start with Jokic and Murray, who... Look, let's start with the lines. Jokic, 32, 21, and 10, the first 30, 20, 10 triple-double in finals history. Jamal Murray, a 34-point triple-double, meaning these are the first teammates with triple-doubles in finals history, and the first teammates with 30-point triple-doubles ever. I had the thought during this game, and especially as it was kind of winding down and we got a sense of what the outcome would be, and I want to fact-check it with you guys, I want to vet it with you guys. Jokic and Murray are the best two-man game in the NBA Finals since when? You know, you could go back to, I think recent history. You got LeBron and AD. You got LeBron and Kyrie running an inverted pick and roll. You got Steph and Draymond. You got, go back further, Tony Parker and Tim Duncan.
And we're not really calling Steph and KD a two-man.
No,
they didn't really worked off of each other.
They didn't interact in that way. And
KD was allergic to screens and kind of still is, but that's neither here nor there.
Well, that's a conversation for a different day, or maybe just later in this day as we get into the Chris Paul conversation. But I think the point being, there are pairings of better players that have been in the NBA Finals. Right. I don't know that there have been a pairing that works as well together in recent history as these two guys.
Well, you're just serving it up for Woz here.
I mean, look,
I'm the Murray to his Jokic, I'm just sneaking around and setting him up.
At this point, it's not even about a victory lap or anything like that. This is just what they do. It's what they've been doing essentially since the 2020 playoffs. Like, this is who they've been. Throughout that next regular season, before the ACL tear, they were just as good and dominant as a two-man combo in generating just quality looks for Denver's offense. I think, honestly, the third quarter that Jokic had, to me, was the decisive moments and minutes of the game. They come into the second half up 5, and it just shows you that Miami, their margin for error in this series is so razor thin. I'm watching that first half. I'm like, look, I like the looks they're generating on offense, the heat that is. I thought they did a great job of running Denver through the freaking ringer, if you can pardon my pun, on the screens, off ball, both actually on ball too. Just, they were making Denver defend every single inch of real estate in the half court. And I thought they generated some beautiful looks, put themselves in a position to be only down 5. This is a team that's been a second half killer all playoff long. And I'm like, man, I kind of like the position that Miami's in right now. And then they have a quarter where they come up with 3, 4, 5 empty possessions in a row, and Jokic is just mauling you, starting 5 for 5. Rob, the positions in the court, he does a pin down, catch and shoot, mid-range jump shot as if he's Reggie Miller. Of course, he had a couple of ones where he caught the mismatch down low, where he just scores in the post over Vincent. He had the spin move on Bam. Like, it was just ridiculous the way he dissected these guys. And that was the difference. They went up by 14 going into the fourth. Obviously, Michael Malone had PTSD from game 2, where they also went into the fourth quarter with a lead. He's like, you know what? I need my security blanket.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm going to leave Jokic in to start the fourth.
I wish this was a video podcast on Spotify, because the faces Rob was making, it was almost as if he was just like savoring a delicious tiramisu or something like that. Like just swirling it around in his mouth, giving it a little sniff.
That's what it is, really. The Jokic Murray pick and roll, really the tiramisu of two-man games, of two men games. We'll work on the plurality of that. But I'm obviously with you. Like, really, when you watch Jokic in this game in particular, the only way you could pick nits in his performance was there were times where he would pump fake a 3 when he probably could have taken it. And this is one of the best 3-point shooters in this series. Probably could have taken it. And I'm over here, and I'm sitting with our coworker Michael Pina, and I'm nudging him. I'm like, why doesn't he take that shot? And then he drives in and throws it up, and Aaron Gordon gets a dunk. It's like, oh, well, that's why he doesn't take that shot, because he can get whatever he wants basically whenever he wants in this series. And, we can talk ourselves blue in the face about making Jokic a scorer, making Jimmy Butler a scorer, like how these defenses work and orient themselves. The reality is Jokic can impact this game pretty much any way he wants to. And he showed that. And I think, honestly, Jamal Murray showed it too. Like, as much as anything, Murray, he had such like a film session win to me, in the sense that he came on the first quarter. He knew exactly where his gaps were. He knew exactly how to get into those mid-range spots and create those shots. And as the game went on, he was so good that Miami couldn't switch anymore. They had to start trapping him to try to get the ball out of his hands. And that led to, some ugly possessions, some turnovers, but it also led to some beats where Murray would wait out the trap. And instead of just dishing it off to Jokic for the easy outlet, would wait until Christian Brown came open baseline, until Aaron Gordon sprung open, dumping off for easier and easier scores as the game went on. The way Murray read this game, I just thought was incredibly sophisticated, was incredibly high level. And that's on top of the fact that, man, that dude was just freaking nails in terms of the shot making. This building got really, really loud, especially in the first half. That second quarter, there were some tight moments where the Heat were making huge runs. And Jamal would just sidestep into what ended up being some of the biggest shots of the game. Just like pull-up threes, sidestep threes that quieted this building completely.
Right. There were moments in the second quarter where it felt like Miami was going to get their 8 or 9 point lead and cushion the way that they ended up doing in parts of game 2, which ended up being, what carried them through the day to that game 2 victory. And Murray hit some incredibly huge shots. There was one sort of at the left elbow extended 3-point line in that half where I was just like, look, Denver is down 4. They missed that. The next possession, you never know. Miami and 1, they're down 7. Like, okay, now Miami's playing with the lead. They're playing a lot more comfortably. But Murray, throughout the entire night, was just making big shot after big shot.
Yeah, and there were a lot of gargantuan stat lines from this game, including some of the ones that Rob mentioned. Anytime you're getting into Wilt territory, you're basically on Mount Olympus in the NBA history books. My favorite from this one, 5 made 3-pointers in total for the Denver Nuggets, 5 for 18, and 3 of them came from Jamal Murray. This wasn't an instance that we've seen in the past with Denver where it was just a collective or just like Jokic opening up 3-point opportunities and them just pouring it on. This was literally the Nuggets just dominating with the 2 best players on the court. And like looking on the opposite side of things, he also had a poor 3-point shooting game. But how many times have we talked about how much they need to work the math advantage in order to make up for the margins that they're lacking in other places? The Nuggets didn't do that. They didn't need to do that because they were just the dominant big dog team in, as you mentioned, a very hostile environment on the road for the first time in the NBA, in the NBA Finals for a lot of these guys. It was a really impressive victory.
Yeah, I mean, you obviously want to, as a team, rely on that math advantage to milk as many threes as you can create that are open, that are good looks, that are for good shooters. But you have to have these kinds of alternatives because ultimately, not only did the Nuggets only hit 5 threes, I think only 2 of those were really spot-up threes. Like the Murray shots were mostly sidesteps or pull-ups. Jokic had 1 spot 3, basically, and Bruce Brown had 1 spot 3. Otherwise, not only did they not make spot 3s, they really didn't generate them. The Heat were all over that stuff to the point that Michael Porter Jr., I mean, bless him, was just like out of this game offensively, just like could not find his angles, could not find opportunities to score. When the ball finally did come to him wide open in the corner, he bricked a 3 because he was just like so out of rhythm. And I think he was able to impact the game as a rebounder and in some other ways. But ultimately, in terms of the scoring workload, it really was all driven by that 2-man action with Jokic and Murray and some of the cuts that came off of it and some of the dump-offs that came off of it. But those 2 are just so good in the intermediate spaces. And Jokic in particular, I know these moments are prone to hyperbole, the NBA Finals, these huge games, these huge sequences, but I don't know that we've ever seen a player with the kind of touch he has before. What he's able to do in terms of absorbing contact and finishing from 4 to 12 feet. I mean, the way that ball just kind of like softly rolls off the rim every single time. It's unbelievable. He's just an unbelievable hard shot scorer.
It looks like a trick shot that you would see like on an Instagram video, but the difference is a lot of those
in the NBA Finals.
Those are all clipped in order to only show the makes, whereas Jokic is actually making all of these. The way it just like rolls in as if like it was destined to is unlike anything I've ever seen.
He's the dude perfect of the NBA is what you're saying.
I mean, what's so crazy is that this is how insane the shots that he's making is that my man Skip Bayless said he had the luckiest game of his life after game 2, even though he's been doing it for 6 years. A guy could be doing what he's doing is so crazy. He could do it for 6 years. And to the untrained eye, it looks like this guy is making completely lucky shots.
Watch that. I don't know that we can use the phrase untrained eye on this podcast anymore. I think that's a watch phrase for the NBA Finals.